A teenager in military gear opened fire with a rifle at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York. The shooting has officials calling it a hate crime and racially motivated violent extremism. The 18-year-old did live stream the attack, and he did kill 10 people and wounded 3 others before surrendering to the police on Saturday afternoon. Police say the 18-year-old, who is white, was wearing body armor and military style clothing when he pulled up and started shooting at a Tops Friendly Market at about 2:30 p.m. Again, the attack was streamed via a camera fixed to the man's helmet. The gunman shot 4 people outside the store, 3 fatally, said Buffalo Police Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia. Inside the store, security guard Aaron Salter, a retired Buffalo police officer, fired multiple shots. A bullet hit the gunman's bulletproof armor, but had no effect, Gramaglia said. The gunman then killed the guard, the commissioner said, and then stalked through the store, shooting other victims. Obviously, this is one of the many other mass shootings we've had. Here's a photo of the security guard who actually was the one we were speaking of, who died trying to stop this mass shooter, who used to be a police officer himself. Was big in the community. In fact, a number of people whose names all haven't been released yet, but who were shopping on a Saturday. There was a woman in her mid-70s who would regularly run a food pantry in Buffalo. And remember that Tops was primarily in a black neighborhood, and was actually fought for and won for that neighborhood because of how our food justice system is horribly unjust, and our food system is unjust. They wanted a new supermarket. And so this was the result of actually some pretty powerful organizing in that community. And this racist gunman knew it. So if there was any doubts as to whether it was racially motivated, there's a manifesto, but there's also some concrete things. So I just wanted to draw your attention to a point of the live stream video. We will not show it, but at one point, the gunman trained his weapon on a white person cowering behind a checkout counter, but says sorry and doesn't shoot, as seen in portions of the live stream video circulating online. Anna, before I continue on this, I just wanted to get your initial thoughts on what again has happened in our country.
Well, I mean, I like that you use the word again, and that's really a key word here, because there is an effort every time there is a shooting that is racially motivated or targeted toward Muslim individuals or Jewish individuals in the country. There is this effort to provide cover, to essentially refer to that shooting or that shooter as a lone wolf. But the fact of the matter is, this country has a long history of white paranoia that manifests in incredibly extreme violent acts. And for the longest time, I think the American people kind of had their head in the sand about the reality of this situation. And his 180-page manifesto, look, I know there's debate about this, but I actually think it's important for people to find the manifesto and read it for themselves, because if you're just relying on partisan media narratives about what the manifesto says, you might fall victim to the disinformation that's being pushed out by people like Glenn Greenwald, for instance. And when you read that manifesto, there is absolutely no mistake about it. It is 100% racially motivated. And he is genuinely concerned about so-called white genocide in America. And we have people in our media, actual prominent Republican politicians, who spew that garbage on a regular basis. And it's terrifying because innocent people get targeted, innocent people get killed. And what's really shocking to me about all of it, right, aside from the heinous nature of it, is this 18-year-old shooter was radicalized in such a short period of time through online message boards like 4chan and stuff like that. And it was his extreme boredness, he says in his manifesto, in the beginning of 2020, as a result of the COVID shutdowns, that made him kind of go through this rabbit hole of right-wing conspiracy theories. And that radicalized him and motivated him to carry out one of the most gruesome, tragic acts of violence in this country.
I wanted to actually just double down on that and go to author Ijoma Oluo, who wrote this on Instagram that I think really underlines even what this heinous mass shooter said himself about why he became radicalized. And she writes, I don't know how many different ways I can express how it feels to know that this country will always offer up the violent destruction of our lives to young white men angry at their lack of purpose and power. We will never be safe until white manhood is defined by something other than the quest for domination over others. And if that doesn't give you chills, man, I don't know what will. It hits really hard. And obviously, if you are Black or Latino or Muslim in this country, I think, or Asian American, as we will see, I think it hits extra hard. And this really resonates. And the ways that people of color are often told to make themselves small and agreeable in order to really not scare white people. Because look at what happens. And so Anna did the Lord's work and or the devil's work of reading that manifesto. But I wanna bring your attention to a couple parts so you don't just take it from her. So this document, the document circulated widely online, outlines this guy's, I don't love saying mass shooters' names, so I'm gonna skip it. Racist, anti-immigrant, and anti-Semitic beliefs. Among them was a desire to drive all people not of European descent from the United States. The document seemed to draw inspiration from the gunman who killed 51 people at 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand in 2019. This obviously, let's skip to graphic 7. The manifesto includes dozens of pages of anti-Semitic racist memes, repeatedly citing the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, frequently pushed by white supremacists, which falsely claims white people are being replaced in America as part of an elaborate Jewish conspiracy theory. Other memes use tropes and discredited data to denigrate the intelligence of non-white people. And the manifesto, which has not been modified since it was posted on Thursday, includes elaborate details of that planned shooting. The document claims the suspect chose Buffalo because it was a city with the highest number of Black people in his vicinity. And this, we've seen this a lot. People go to like the first urban center, right? The first place where they seek a concentration of Black people. And it's happened a number of times in New York City as well. But I just wanna like underscore the Great Replacement theory because I think it is important to understand, to not shy away from what that bogus theory actually is. This idea, and we'll find this very funny on this show and anyone who's watching because of the way we cover immigration and Democrats, this idea that Democrats are just letting in tons of immigrants and then they're giving them citizenship and you just like a badge, boom, citizenship, and then they just go register them to vote and then they vote. Yeah. Tell that to the 11 million undocumented people in this country who've been here for decades, still waiting to have some sort of political representation. There, in no world are Democrats trying or successfully registering voters to vote Democrat. And the second point on that is, why wouldn't Republicans, if they believe that immigrants are pouring across the border in hordes and being legalized, why wouldn't they try to recruit them to vote for Republicans? Oh, because they know they're racist. So anyway, reactions on that.
Well, yeah, you make such a great point about like, well, why is it just the Democrats who would want their vote or try to persuade them to vote for, what I'm like, Republicans, right. But the truth is, there are white people in America who have been convinced that once they become the minority, people of color and primarily Black individuals will treat them the way they have treated and disenfranchised and, in our nation's history, of course, brutalized African Americans. Yes. And so that's where the fear really stems from. And there's one other angle that I wanted to just quickly mention, which is, this shooting happened pretty soon after we found out about the Supreme Court's leaked a draft opinion on reversing Roe v. Wade, which they're poised to do. And I noticed that in the manifesto, and I'm gonna read directly from it, because I think this shows you both the depravity, the just like the brutal, horrific nature of this guy's ideology and those who also subscribe to it. And also like the issue of abortion and being able to have children and all of that. He writes, he justifies killing children of color and specifically says children of replacers do not stay children, they become adults and reproduce, creating more replacers to replace your people. They grow up and vote against your people's own wishes for interests of their own people and identity. They grow up and take the potential homes of your people for themselves. They occupy positions of power, remove wealth, and destroy social trust. That's directly from his manifesto. So I've been thinking a lot about how the anti-choice movement is obsessed with like repopulating the country with white babies. And I was like, okay, but if we ban reproductive rights for women, it's not just gonna impact white women, it's gonna impact women of color as well. And in fact, more so because they tend to be overrepresented in disadvantaged parts of the country, lower socioeconomic status. But in his mind, what they need to do is essentially deport everyone who's not white. And also, I mean, as you can see, he carried it out himself, murder anyone who might try to resist that. Yeah. And then essentially force white women in America to repopulate the country with white people, with white babies. That is what the plan is. It all kind of comes together. So when you hear all of the hypocrisy in regard to, we're just trying to protect human lives, it's not really about protecting human lives when it comes to the anti-choice movement. There is a racial component to it as well that I think plays into these insane paranoid conspiracy theories.
Right, which is funny because you're like, well, if your goal was to create a white ethno state, obviously you would be for reproductive rights. You would be for people doing family planning, saying, I've had 2 children, I think I'm good. Oh yay, I get a right to terminate a pregnancy. Like that would actually be your ideology, but it's not. And I think really interesting enough on the flip side of this racism is Samuel Alito himself, the Supreme Court justice, who in his leaked draft of his opinion stated that basically because so many black and brown people, women in America have been exercising their right to an abortion, that actually it's like a form of eugenics because they're, and we should be protecting black and brown babies. You don't care at all. Stop it. You know that's ridiculous. It's just a way to criminalize black people even more, and black women and Latino women, and we know that. But I just keep coming back to 18. Like I get it. I get like, I don't know, maybe, and we're gonna talk about Tucker Carlson in a little bit, but it doesn't really matter because the same talking points are being parroted in mainstream news as they are on 4chan. It's just sort of this feedback loop. But I still keep on coming back to like, I think there's a lot of me that wants to be like, well, 18, that's just a bad seed. But no. This is an ideology. Talk about grooming. This is something that was a sludge that was fed to him. And I think Ijoma is completely correct in saying, why do we have to constantly be coddling the fears of young white men? And yet here we are. And I think without anything else to latch on to, we are all at the mercy, and without being able to do 2 things. 1, never talk about gun control, let alone get it. Or 2, never talk about racism. So we're just ping-ponging between these complete dead ends politically in this country. And the result is people of color are murdered.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Look, at the end of the day, what motivated this was 100% racism and racist paranoia. But what stood out to me was how quickly he was radicalized and the conditions under which young men and their, angst, for lack of a better word, gets exploited to radicalize them. So it's not just like, it's just a bad seed. No, there is a culture at play that the American government has been ignoring. They've had their head in the sand for quite some time. I mean, even the FBI of all government agencies has been warning about right-wing extremism in America for quite some time now. Yes. And when like our elected lawmakers are engaging in like denialism to the point where the FBI looks good on domestic terror threats, it just really blows my mind.
Absolutely. And it also scares me into the idea that once they do get finally wise to it, they'll just funnel way more money only into the FBI when there's so many other strategies, and take it from the Muslim American community that's been completely demonized by entities like the FBI, who understand, like, if you actually want to stop extremism, it is not by creating sting operations. It's not by setting people up and all these other militarized ways of rooting it out.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.